Oh,
Okay,
hi, Tzili.
welcome to another episode of Tzuzamen. Hi, Tzipi.
Hi, Tzili again.
Yael Frank, an Israeli artist, now in Montreal for a few months already, since the summer, no, Yael? Since the summer,
Since July.
since July. Anyway, um, when was Yael? When were the two cats were seated in Tel Aviv? How long they're there?
The cats were seated in Tel Aviv. They're there for a month now, I think.
Okay.
Almost a
There
month.
are two sculptures of big cats resting in the middle of Tel Aviv.
There are many more of them around Tel Aviv since we were born in Square Dizengoff.
So I just
Picture.
wanted, and the cats are a very big part of Yael's work, and I just wanted to take you on the street of Tel Aviv with Yael, with the cats. Yael, tell us a little bit about these sculptures.
So the new sculpture, the Sleepers, is a sculpture of two large-scale cats. So the whole thing is like 5 meters by 1.80 meters. It's quite big. And they are resting on two pedestals, two identical pedestals, and both of these cats are passed out sleeping. This is why the sculpture is called the Sleepers. And the two pedestals have engraving on them. So one of the pedestals says no, one of the pedestals says yes, on the front in Hebrew, on the back in English. And the sculpture is facing Namir Road, which is quite a central road. It's in front of this commercial residential office complex called Midtown. And it's right off Shaul HaMelech and Kaplan, which is basically where all the demonstrations are happening. First against the judicial in English, you don't know how to
institutions, right?
All the military,
and now
the military, the justice, and the
the
Supreme Court.
headquarters of everything. Yeah.
Right. They're coming back now.
You know, you're talking about it, and we have in mind all the demonstration, all the noise and loud, and the cats are sleeping. They just
oblivious, they don't care, indifferent.
At the same time, it looks like a tombstone. And they're sitting on a tombstone, and it's like it stands out for something. What is the something that you're looking for in order to put it there in the middle of the whole noise?
Well, for me, there are two parallel lines that are continuous in the past few years of my practice. One has to do with words, text, words that are singular words that I am looking to see where they are and what happened with them. So there is a series of works of yes and no, which are the two words that I feel like are completely collapsing in these days. And then the other line is
colliding.
Have been colliding, or they lost their separation in a way. Like all of our conception of either agreeing, disagreeing, consenting, denying, approving, all of that notion of basically agency, our agency as humans, I feel like it has collapsed, or it's in a process of collapsing. And I feel like now more than ever, wherever you are on the political spectrum, I feel like people will agree with this.
It's really
there's
like
a notion,
the basic existence standing on yes and no.
Yeah, the basis existence of the basis of agency, of our ability to, as humans, as individuals, to either, approve or disapprove. There is a beautiful text by Jacques Derrida. It's called "The Animal That Therefore I Am," and he's quoting the very beginning of the text. He's quoting from Alice in Wonderland, and he's talking about Alice's cat. And the problem she has with the cat is that she doesn't know whether it's meowing for yes or for no. And it's very hard to have a conversation with somebody if you don't know if they're saying yes or no. And in response, the cat just meowed, and she didn't know if he was agreeing or disagreeing with her because she was saying that out loud. So I think that's like the basis of agency. And in history, in the history of art and culture, there are numerous examples of lions guarding monuments and lions guarding buildings. And what they're really guarding when they're guarding a monument or a building, they are guarding the current ethical virtues of the time. So in the New York Public Library, you have those two lions, right? And they were actually named. They got names. They're titled Endurance and Perseverance because when they were erected, it was the Great Depression, and that is what you needed in order to survive at the moment. So that's their names, and they're guarding the library, you know, knowledge and humanity. And there are numerous examples of that. And for the sleepers, I thought the lions of, you know, Tel Aviv are cats, really. But they're actually not guarding.
It's pathetic.
But the thing is that they don't really guard anything. They just lazy
Exactly.
and rest in the sun, and they don't care what's going on. And they're there,
Exactly.
and you can do whatever you want.
They fell asleep on their guard, which left the two words unattended. And I think the sculpture tries to put forward the question: what happens when these two fundamental terms are left unattended? Nobody's guarding. Yes and no. The guards fell asleep in the guard. They're indifferent, as you said. They don't care, and they're just sleeping. They're very lazy.
It's really
and that, you know, that puts forward a question in the public space.
The thing is, it's really if people relate to this way, because Tel Aviv has tons of cats. I mean, here in New York and in Montreal, you don't see tons of cats in the street. It's like we're used to it. They're part of us, you know.
You see rats.
That's right. And all of a sudden they get this platform and they sit there. So there are two more cats. So I don't know if people really pay attention because it's so obvious to have cats around. I don't know if people look at this as guardians that went, you know, that fell asleep.
But you know, earlier work that I know is the grid. How you call it, the grid? I mean, it's big structures.
Yeah.
It's almost like this falling asleep, whatever, not guarding anymore, because you cannot guard anymore. It's all so chaotic. So if you take those grids, so you know it's a structure, right? And so many lines and different directions, and one of them has a cat in the middle, something, right? So even if they were trying to find their space, their territory in this chaos, forget it.
I think they're just waiting for us to decide what's going on, and then they can continue. But if Tzipi mentioned already the video that you did, maybe you'll take us a little bit to this beautiful video
With
the
mean?
Cat.
With the cat,
No,
okay,
no,
with the cat, okay.
Same, we're with the cats.
And also when you decide, yeah, to
just tell us a little bit about the video. So
the video, the show is titled Grid. The video is titled Salami. And in this video, there is a huge structure in the shape of the word in Hebrew, shalom, which means peace. And this structure is made out of, how to call it? It's scratching posts for cats and boxes for cats. It's based on a product that's called the cat condo, which people buy for their house when they have more than one cat. Usually And this is for the cats to inhabit space in the 3 dimensions, so they don't go for the couch or the shelves. They just, they use this structure. So I based my design on the structure for cats, and the entire word is actually almost like a big theme park for cats, because they can walk all over this word. And the video reveals this this event, only it's happening inside a phenomenon where the word is actually covered with grid, with a black and white grid, and also the background is covered with this grid. So what happens is the word kind of fades into the background, and the camera is used to scan this object from all different sides. And as it's scanning the object or turning it around, there's no up and down, there's no back and forth, there's no, as you talked about chaos before, the grid actually resists gravity, resists natural laws, and the cats are eating salami on this object. They're jumping, they're moving around, they're inhabiting this world. And the premise for the work is that there is a connection between the failure of the promise and the feral cats of Tel Aviv. The sound also brings us into the cityscape, because I was working on this project with a British curator, Paul Hobson, and we had really amazing Zoom meetings once a month to discuss the progress of the project. And at one point, I realized that for him, cats are like, we understood everything. We had extremely interesting conversations. At one moment, I realized when I'm talking about cats, I'm talking about the street. And when he's hearing cats, because he's in London, he's hearing house. So I understood I have to bring the cityscape, because it is a very unique feature of the city that it is inhabited by cats parallel to humans, in this weird parallel reality where they just use the space in all different ways, and we use the space in all different ways, and it's parallel lines. So that's a feature of the sound of this video. And the initial point of departure for this work was when I had a show at the Artist Studio Gallery in Tel Aviv that was curated by Saleh Haftel-Naveh, and I had these IKEA glass sculptures that we were very, very scared for, because it was an extremely intricate production to manipulate this IKEA product. And we were standing there kind of guarding the objects. And then I had Outside they came for a visit with their group. And the woman who runs this space, she's taking care of 2 feral cats who just wandered into the show, started kind of rubbing on these glass sculptures, scratching the rug of where the video projection was. And I thought, it like hit me. I actually have a photo from that event, which is really great. I have a photo of the cat kind of rubbing onto one of the sculptures, because for me, that was the moment of, wow, they don't care, it's art.
Right.
Like for the cat, it doesn't matter. They just want to rub onto something. They don't care. This is culture. It's unrelated to them. They're completely indifferent, but they're kind of using us, or like using the facilities in space for their bodily needs. And I thought that was extremely interesting. So this is where this project departed into the Salami project.
What's your reaction to the pigs in the city of Haifa, who actually took over the city? But they are
the wild pigs.
The wild pigs, the chazirim. I mean, they are like
the pigs in the city.
They conquered the city, actually.
The truth is that in the corona, there are few areas in Israel that animals conquered the city. I think they have other animals in other cities as well.
Anyway, but Haifa is really a big one. Let me just ask you something. Maybe, and I hope you'll show, or we'll get the clip of the Jaws.
Why not?
Right? And that was really you know, just jaws, 4 jaws standing on, I forgot what.
Is
And
the
they
jaws like from the dentist?
yeah, you're right. And they really, whatever they talk, and they make it clear that they talk to us, each one of us, not like a collective, but each one of us. So what brought you to this image? If you remember how you
First
started.
of all, thank you for this observation, because it's a big feature of my work, that the work speaks to you as an individual and not as a crowd. And they do that. They are almost one entity separated into 3 voices, but you as a receiver, you're addressed as an individual, and that is what I always hope that my work does. It's what I was hoping to get achieved in the sleepers, and I see that because I get all the photos from people who take photos next to the sculpture that they kind of stand in the middle of, or they try to choose, because it's like a question,
Yes
and
or
it's
no.
addressing them individually. Which one are you? Yeah, are you the yes or the no? Are you in the center? Can you make up your mind? So yeah, so the jaws addresses individually, and they try to break apart. It's hard to talk about it now, not because I don't remember, but because the word completely changed around us, and especially the art world completely changed around us. So I'm almost scared to talk about this now. But the work is kind of breaking apart the notion of the political. So it's asking a question about what is that? What is the political, and how can you talk about it? If you can talk about it,
You
and
can,
what happens when you
it's
talk
hard to
about it?
do it in like in a real narrative, you know, like a realistic, like actors. What you can do with the jaws, what you can say with the jaws, I don't know if you can say in a different, you know, with different characters, like real characters. I'm not sure if you can say it.
I mean, I
It
think
will be,
that you know, it's a bit chilling also to think about that.
To have an independent jaws that can say what it wants without being
right.
part of
Yeah,
I think that
Also, you know, they can negate the impossible. Everything is possible. You know, when you use those jaws, you can go beyond what's possible. You know, so you don't doubt the credibility or anything, but it's a form which I think it's much more powerful. It has maybe a touch of humor, but you know, in this context, you know, it's hard to see the humor.
But it also stands for freedom of speech,
Right.
because the jaw can say
Anything.
what it wants, and you can just use it as a tool,
right?
And you cannot attach it to anybody.
Yeah, but still,
exactly.
he asks you to take responsibility for your choices, for your.
Yeah, but you can choose if to take it or not.
Well,
yes.
But the way I perceived it, that it will be very hard to get away from ourselves after we listen to them or look at them. There is something there which go to the essence. And I don't know if one can look at this video and not have a real strong reflection and acknowledgement about who am I in this whatever game or issue. Yeah, it's very powerful. I mean, I must admit, I was like, yeah.
Yael, I want to ask you something.
Thank
Since
you.
we're talking about speech, ideas, freedom of speech, and politics, and we cannot get away, you know, away from politics. You're in Montreal for 10 months now, and you're far away from Israel, from everything that is going on in Israel. You're always very involved and very tuned to everything, and you react towards what's going on. How does it feel to be far away, not there? How do you see things differently? Do you think you can react to this the same way? Do you want to react to this? Do you want just to observe? How do you feel as an artist sitting outside?
Honestly, the strongest reaction is for a long while I was just frozen, kind of. I think you freeze, because what happens is when you leave, until October 7th, the notion of leaving, I mean, it was possible. But in October 7th, I just felt like it's impossible. You can take your body out of there, but there is a membrane, like a transparent membrane, and it just kind of,
Tell me about it.
it follows you, and you're. So I think there's a strong sense of that, and at the same time, we also get all the demonstration. We see our colleagues, our international colleagues. We see how they react, what they are saying.
What do they say in Montreal?
The same like in London.
I think it's the same everywhere. I think, we see the same things. I can tell you, my kids are in a Jewish school, and of course, there's tons of security. I think the Jewish community here,
which is a big one,
suffers. A lot of people lost their jobs or chose to resign because of anti-Semitism. And on the other hand, Montreal is a truly international continental city. I mean, I don't know all of Canada, but I can say for sure that this is a place of diversity, like a true diversity, a diversity where people don't give up their identity. It's a beautiful diversity where people maintain their identity and they live together. And I'm doing a government French class because I have to learn French here. So my friends now are from all over the world. It's a lot of people from Iran, from Libya, from Sudan, from China, from India. And this is kind of a utopia, it gives me a lot of hope for the ability to actually, exchange and be able to connect with, just these other nations that we just feel are, outside of the limit. So on one hand, there's all these, pro-Palestine demonstrations that are using the violent language that we know, that I think are completely crossing the line. I can say that I went to an art event here and I felt very uncomfortable. I mean, I don't want to bring everything that I feel like for artists. Our professional world as Israeli artists kind of collapsed after October 7th. I feel that's because maybe it's not true. Maybe it's just the stronger voices.
The art scene in Israel is corrupt.
No, the outside of Israel, like we all, as Israeli artists, and I'm not ashamed to say this because we have a beautiful, amazing art scene in Israel, but every Israeli artist wants their work to be distributed outside of Israel. It's a natural desire of an artist to have their work, shown in a broader context. And I think that there's something about our abilities, Israeli artists, to do that collapsed. Like the notion, I think we also felt connected, part of the international community of the liberal left, of the academy. And what we see in the academy and the liberal left kind of, pushes us to the side.
Right.
The tough thing is that they look at us as one. They don't look at us as individuals that function on an individual way, and then it's a one.
They don't trust us, they don't trust that the Israeli art now. Yeah, it is a question of trust.
I don't know if that's a question.
If they really trust them not to be biased. I want to tell you something, talking about one of the other pieces that I saw, your piece, I don't know how to call it, is what you did about Givat HaTachmoshet, the Valley of whatever, that is from 67, right? The song.
Yeah.
And if we can show at least part of it, and I was wondering, you took a song which is extremely patriotic.
But tell them about this place.
So it's a sun will rise, right? you see the sun coming out and
But
out
tell
of,
them about this place because it's a special place
yeah,
in the
you do
Israeli.
it. So you tell them.
It was a part of Jerusalem, of East Jerusalem, that we took over 6-day war, and after a terrible fight, and many people got killed, and it was symbolic. It was very symbolic in the whole picture of the 6-day war, and they turned it to a museum.
But she has this video, which here
so
we
now,
can see
yeah.
it. You know, with the sun coming up, and out of the sun, I think it's a kind of a tank coming from the sun. It looks like, but I wasn't sure in the beginning. But what stunned me is it's like repetitious, like in music. There is a phrase of music with words, and then another phrase. And every time the video starts from the sun coming up, very bright, etc. So there is words, and then it's cut, and then it starts again with a different piece, very fragmented. And I was wondering about this fragmentation of such almost a patriotic, military, worshipping song, very popular song, and you just cutting it, fragmented it. Why?
Well, the context is I was at the time living in New York. I was a student at the Cooper Union, which was the first time I left Israel and lived abroad. And the video is titled 7 Attempts to Bring Back the Sun. So the idea is that the sun is coming from behind the hill, but it's actually not lighting up the scene. So there's never light in the scene. The sun is coming up, but it's not making light. And then it rolls down the hill with a fragment from the song that talks about the sun. So the fragments always talk about the sun. The sun rose on Ammunition Hill, or the sunset, or the sun rose. It's all fragments about the sun. I mean, there's so much behind this work. I don't know where to begin, but
no, it is many layers and really complicated.
But I can say that initially I did not have that sound on. I just had the sun. And then, but it was based on the idea of a tank. And I had this song in my head because as you leave Israel, you start reflecting on everything that seemed normal when you were growing up. And one of the things that seemed normal as I was growing up, every year when the school took us to Ammunition Hill, was to run around those tunnels, not tunnels, how do you call them? The ditches.
Maybe the wall, yeah. Right?
What the ditches. The ditches. It's like a maze of ditches. Right. And as kids, until from 1st grade to 6th grade, we would, every year go there and kind of run around and jump around the place and like play and hide and seek, like it was normal. And I kept thinking about that, about this normalization of war, of trauma, of violence, of, place. I think for us in Israel, especially that my work has a lot to do with monuments. In Israel, the monuments are located where the thing actually happened. So you're running around the monument of Ammunition Hill, you're running around where people, were fighting, got killed. And that's very different from other places where you have a monument that's commemorating something that usually happened somewhere else. It's not normally right there on the spot.
For a very long time ago. In Israel, it's like everyday thing.
Exactly. So as I showed it without the sound, everybody was talking about the tank and military and that it looks like a helmet. And then this was my first lesson as an artist, really. Consider it my first work in a way. That I thought, okay, well, if everybody is anyway talking about this, then I might as well just put the sound on, So then I put the sound, I put the subtitles, and I showed it at the Anthology Film Archives to a big audience of people. And I saw them from the back because I was sitting at the back. And because this song is like a march, very jumpy march, like everybody was sitting like this while the video is playing. And then at the end of the screening, when people approached me, they spoke to me about the sun. They didn't speak to me about war. They didn't speak to me about tanks. They spoke about the sun rising. They spoke about the sun rising, not making light. They spoke about a reversed sunset, which was, you know, where the poetic and the politic and the poetics and the politics, where they meet, is a very important place. And I think for me, it was the first lesson of how to do that, like how to approach very visceral, how to say it, intuition, you know, that I have as an artist, the intellectual side that I always, you know, that always is working. And those things in my work, they always meet. Memory, I mean, I think the work always looks very research-based. Like I think the way my work looks like, it looks like how research-based work looks like, only it's not research-based. Usually the research will follow the work. So I work from a lot of intuition and from a very visceral place. And I think the way these two things connect for me is a bit in reverse. Like I often do the models after I produce a big sculpture. So it's a bit strange the way I work. And I think of this in 7 attempts to bring back the sun, I found a way to connect those two things. And I found that the metaphor can open up when you are very explicit in, you know, doing what's, I think for artists, it's like I think our biggest challenge, the hardest thing to do as a human, but as an artist in specifically, and specific is to say something.
Right.
It's very hard to say something, you know? First of all, it's scary. Second, we talk about responsibility. You become liable for the thing that you said. Like all the conversations that we just had about the war, you know, it's very scary to speak.
Yes.
And when we make work and we put it in the public space, whether it's a gallery, an institution, or like literally outside on the street, we're liable for something that we said, and that's a very scary thing to do.
But it's much less scary if you use images like in your art.
So I think there's a way to
only way
express it.
It's the only
I think the way
responsibility space.
Yeah, but
well, I think asking questions for me is the way to go, because I think that my role as an artist is to observe and to put forward questions.
Right.
And so I think in all of my work is how
to use the form, you know, like it's the same in animation.
Yeah, Ellie, we have to go. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Listen, I just want to tell you, I was blown out. I mean, I really, wow, I knew about your stuff, but I didn't
it's
really,
very powerful.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Very
so
powerful.
Just keep going.
Thank you for coming. Thank you,
so
everybody. Much. We'll see you next week. Bye.